Orthodox Jews, they won't even step on top of the Temple Mount lest they accidentally tread in wherever the spot was where the Holy of Holies was. You know, that was a death penalty in the Old Testament. This is the spot where the presence of God himself dwelt, and nobody could ever go there, because if they did and walked into God's presence, they would die. So if you go back 2,000 years, every part of the temple where you could go was dependent on who you were. On the very outside, you had something that was called the Gentile court. Beggars, sick, poor people, they could only go to the Gentile court. Inside the Gentile court, there was something called the outer court. That's as far as women could go. Inside of the outer court, there was something called the inner court. Male Israelites were the only people that could go there. Total silence, and that was where they made offerings. Then inside of the inner court was the Holy of Holies. Only priests could go there. And then right in between that thing you just saw and the holy place was a veil as thick as your hand that separated the holy place from the most holy place. The only person who could ever go there was the high priest, and he could go in 1 day per year and only after a whole day of cleansing from sin. And that's where the Ark of the Covenant was, and the glory of God dwelt between the cherubim. Okay, now Jesus comes along in the Lord's Prayer, and he just starts praying, "Our Father, our Dad." And he just starts going, "Hey man, do you know what you can do now? You can just walk up and talk to God like he's your dad." All right, now, here's a big point. Let's say you were a Gentile woman, and all of a sudden you're at the temple and you're on the very outer side, and you're like, "Man, I can't go into God's presence." I just want you to imagine this. Somebody you don't know grabs your hand, and he just says, "Come with me." And you just start going, "Well, I'm not allowed." I'm not allowed. I'm a Gentile woman. I'm not allowed to do that. And he's like, "You're good if you're with me." And then he goes, "Come with me even farther." And then he takes you into the inner court, and it's only male Israelites. You're like, "I'm not allowed." He's like, "You are if you're with me." And he still got you by the hand. And he says, "Well, why do we go into the holy place?" And you're like, "Well, I'm not a priest." He says, "It's okay if you're with me." And then you walk right up to that veil, thick as your hand, and with terror on your face, he pulls that veil to the side. And you know, anybody that's ever entered that thing that didn't belong in there has died. And you go, "Wow, I can't go there." And he says, "As long as you're with me, you're good." And right there is the Ark of the Covenant that only a handful of people have ever seen. And you look right between the wings of those cherubs and you see the face of God. You look at that face, and then you look at the face of your guide, and you see the likeness of a son in the face of your guide, and you're going, boom, boom, poof. And all of a sudden it dawns on you that when Jesus died, that curtain was torn, because now you can just talk to God like he's your dad and walk right up to him.